hope your heart is prepared for what the Lord has for us tonight. I am not a missionary per se, and so I'm not necessarily going to preach on missions tonight, but what I'm going to preach on has very much to do with that, because every single one of us is a missionary. Just because you're not in Iceland, or just because you're not in the Philippines, or just because you're not in Brazil or somewhere else does not mean that you're not a missionary. God has called you here to be a missionary to this area. And that's really what I want to focus a little bit on tonight. And the story here in Exodus chapter 3 is a very familiar one to us. Moses, obviously, and I'm not going to take the time to tell the whole story, but Moses killed a man. God exposed that, and Moses fled to the backside of the desert. And you might have heard this before, but it's been said that Moses spent 40 years learning how to be a somebody. He spent 40 years on the backside of the desert learning how to be a nobody. And he spent the last 40 years of his life learning how God can take somebody who thinks he's a nobody and make something out of his life. And that's exactly what God did with Moses. But where we find him here is on the backside of the desert, learning how to be a nobody. He's tending sheep in the backside of the desert. And it says this in verse number 1 of Exodus chapter 3. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look.